The steam hisses. The sound is constant, rhythmic, a white noise that fills the boiler room and seeps through the wooden walls into the factory above. It is 7:45 a.m., March 20th, 1905, Brockton, Massachusetts, and the R.B. Grover Shoe Factory is humming with morning energy. 300 workers, stitchers, cutters, finishers, mostly women and Swedish immigrants, settle into their stations on the 4 floors above the basement boiler room. The factory sits on the corner of Main and Kalmar Streets in Campello, a working-class neighborhood dense with tenements and small businesses. The building is modern for its time, 4 stories of wood and glass, more than 300 windows allowing sunlight to flood the work floors. The machinery is state-of-the-art, powered by steam from a high-pressure boiler installed in the basement. The factory has been running hard for weeks, pushing production, meeting quotas, turning out thousands of shoes to satisfy demand. The boiler, too, has been running hard, overworked, oversized for the space, generating pressures that strain the metal, the joints, the rivets that hold it together. In the boiler room, Chief Engineer David W. Rockwell sits near the window, watching the gauges, listening to the hiss. He's been doing this for years. He knows the sounds, the rhythms, the small variations that signal trouble. But this morning, the boiler sounds normal. The pressure is high, but within tolerances. The steam is hot, but that is expected. Everything is as it should be. He does not know that in 5 minutes, the boiler will explode, the factory will collapse, and 58 people will die in one of the worst industrial disasters in American history. At 7:50 a.m., the boiler ruptures. The explosion is not gradual. It is instantaneous, catastrophic, a release of energy so sudden and violent that witnesses later describe it as a bomb. The boiler, a massive iron cylinder containing steam at temperatures exceeding 300 degrees Fahrenheit and pressures above 100 pounds per square inch, tears itself apart. The metal splits along a seam, and the superheated steam inside, compressed, pressurized, waiting, explodes outward with the force of several tons of dynamite. The boiler itself becomes a missile. It shoots upward, tearing through the floor of the factory, punching through the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, the roof. It continues upward, arcing through the air, traveling hundreds of feet before crashing down onto a house on Kalmar Street, demolishing it, burying itself in the wreckage. Behind it, the factory is disintegrating. The floors, weakened by the hole torn through their center, begin to collapse. The 4th floor falls onto the third onto the second onto the first. Each impact compounds the destruction, crushing machinery, beams, walls, and the people trapped between them. The collapse takes less than 10 seconds. When it stops, the R.B. Grover Shoe Factory is a pancake of splintered wood, twisted metal, and human bodies stacked 4 stories deep, burning. The explosion is heard across Brockton. People stop in the streets, turn toward the sound, a deep, resonant boom that rattles windows and shakes the ground. A plume of smoke rises from Campello, black and thick, visible for miles. Within seconds, the first flames appear, licking through the wreckage. The factory's gas lines, ruptured by the collapse, are feeding the fire. Natural gas pours into the rubble, mixes with air, ignites. The flames spread with terrifying speed, consuming wood that is dry, old, soaked in years of oil and dust from the shoe-making machinery. At the rear of the boiler room, a storage shed containing naphtha, gasoline, and cement explodes. The second blast sends a fireball rolling through the ruins, igniting everything it touches. The heat intensifies. The fire, fueled by gas and accelerated by the ventilation provided by 300 shattered windows, becomes an inferno. The temperature exceeds 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Metal begins to melt. Iron pipes, radiators, machinery, all soften, bend, drip like wax. The fire is so hot that witnesses half a mile away can feel the heat on their faces. Inside the wreckage, people are screaming. The collapse has pinned them beneath beams, beneath machinery, beneath layers of flooring and plaster and brick. Some are crushed outright, killed instantly by the weight. Others are trapped, alive, unable to move, waiting as the fire spreads toward them. Their screams carry through the smoke, through the roar of the flames, across the neighborhood. Neighbors pour from their homes, running toward the factory, drawn by the sound of the explosion and the screams that follow. They find chaos. The factory is unrecognizable, a mountain of debris, burning, collapsing inward as the fire consumes what little structure remains. People are stumbling out of the wreckage, those who were near the edges, near windows, near stairs that somehow remained intact. They are burned, bloodied, covered in soot. Some walk calmly, in shock, their minds unable to process what has happened. Others run, panicked, screaming. A woman emerges from the rubble, her clothes on fire, and collapses in the street. Neighbors rush to her, beat out the flames with their hands, with blankets. She does not speak. She stares at the burning factory, her eyes wide, unblinking. John Twigg and Billy Mannix are outside when the explosion hits. They are young men, workers themselves, strong, quick-thinking. They see the factory collapse, see the flames, and they run, not away, toward. They sprint down the street to a lumber yard, grab a ladder, haul it back to the factory. They prop it against a section of wall that is still standing, barely, and climb up. Through a broken window on the second floor, they see people trapped inside, alive, calling for help. Twig leans through the window, extends his hand. A girl grabs it. He pulls her through, hands her down to Mannix, who carries her to the ground. They go back up, again and again, pulling people through the window, girls, women, anyone they can reach. They rescue 7, 8, 9 people before the wall begins to sway. The fire is weakening the structure, eating through the beams. Twig and Mannix scramble down the ladder seconds before the wall collapses, crashing into the street in a shower of sparks and ash. They stand, breathing hard, watching the flames. There are more people inside. They can hear the screams, but there is nothing more they can do. The fire is too intense. The building is too unstable. They have to step back to wait for the firefighters, to hope that someone, anyone, can be saved. The Campello fire station shares the block with the Grover factory. The firefighters are the first to respond. Running from the station within seconds of the explosion, they see the factory collapsing, the flames spreading, and they know immediately that this is beyond them. They sound the alarm, a general alarm that brings fire companies from across Brockton, from neighboring towns, from as far as 15 miles away. Within minutes, 20 fire engines are converging on Campello, horses galloping, bells clanging, firefighters clinging to the sides. They arrive to find a 4-acre inferno. The factory is burning. The hardware store next door is burning. A rooming house across the street is burning. The heat is radiating outward, igniting buildings that were not touched by the explosion, creating new fires faster than the firefighters can contain them. The firefighters hook up their hoses, aim streams of water at the flames, but the water seems to do nothing. It evaporates before it reaches the fire, turning to steam in midair. The heat is too great. The fire is too advanced. All they can do is contain it, keep it from spreading further, and wait for it to burn itself out. Inside the wreckage, the trapped workers are dying. Some from the crush, their ribs broken, their lungs punctured, bleeding internally. Others from the fire, the flames creeping closer, the heat becoming unbearable. They scream until their throats give out, until the smoke fills their lungs, until they lose consciousness. A few, pinned in pockets where the floors did not fully collapse, survive for hours, calling for help. Their voices growing weaker. Rescuers standing on the rubble can hear them but cannot reach them. The fire is too hot. The structure is too unstable. To dig through the wreckage is to risk triggering another collapse, to risk being buried oneself. The firefighters make the agonizing decision to focus on extinguishing the fire first, on stabilizing the ruins before attempting rescues. It is the only rational choice, but it means that people who could have been saved are not. It means listening to their screams, hearing them fade, knowing that they are dying and there is nothing to be done. The firefighters work in silence, faces grim, tears mixing with the soot and sweat. At 11 a.m., more than 3 hours after the explosion, the fire is finally under control. The flames are out, replaced by smoke, thick, acrid, rising in columns from the smoldering ruins. The factory is gone. In its place is a blackened crater filled with charred wood, twisted metal, and the bodies of the dead. The firefighters and volunteers begin the recovery. They move carefully, stepping over debris, digging with their hands, with shovels, with crowbars. They find bodies quickly, too many, too fast. Some are whole, recognizable. Others are burned beyond identification, reduced to charred bones and ash. The bodies are carried out, one by one, laid in rows on the street. Families are gathering, drawn by the news that has spread through Brockton like wildfire. Mothers, fathers, wives, husbands, children, all searching for loved ones. They move along the rows, looking at faces, at clothing, at anything that might identify the dead. Some find their loved ones and collapse in grief. Others find nothing and are left in limbo, not knowing if their family member is dead, injured, or simply missing. David W. Rockwell, the chief engineer, is among the missing. His wife, watching from her kitchen window 5 minutes before the explosion, saw him sitting in a chair near the boiler room window, reading a gauge, doing his job. After the explosion, she runs to the factory, searching for him. He's not among the survivors. He's not among the injured. Rumors spread. He was seen leaving town, running away, guilty of negligence, fleeing responsibility. The rumors are vicious, cruel, fueled by the need to blame someone, to find a reason for the disaster. But the rumors are false. The next day, searchers digging through the boiler room find a charred body, barely recognizable. Near it, a bent watch, 2 rubber heels, and a torn piece of clothing. Mrs. Rockwell is brought to the scene. She looks at the clothing, touches it, and identifies it as belonging to her husband. David Rockwell did not flee. He died in the explosion, incinerated in the blast that tore his boiler apart. His body is so badly burned that only fragments remain. He is buried quietly, his name cleared too late to spare his widow the agony of the accusations. The death toll climbs. By the end of the first day, 35 bodies have been recovered. By the second day, 50. The count stops at 58 when Hiram Pierce, a worker pulled from the wreckage with severe burns, dies on April 15th, nearly a month after the explosion. More than 150 others are injured. Burns, broken bones, crushed limbs, smoke inhalation. Some of the injured go home without reporting. Too dazed to understand what has happened, one man, blown clear of the building by the explosion, wanders in shock to another shoe factory, applies for a job, works a full day, and goes home to find his family mourning him as dead. Another worker, a woman, is on the fourth floor when the explosion hits. She feels the building drop beneath her, a sickening lurch as the floors collapse. She falls, tumbles through the debris, and when she stops, she's lying on the ground outside, on the street, somehow thrown clear by the collapse. She crawls a few feet, confused, then realizes she is safe. She stands, walks away, and does not return. The bodies that cannot be identified are a separate tragedy. 40 of the dead are burned so completely that their features are gone, their clothing destroyed, their bodies reduced to charred remains that all look the same. The medical examiner attempts to identify them using jewelry, dental records, scars, anything distinctive. Some are identified this way, others are not. 18 remain unknown. No name, no family, no one to claim them. They are buried together in a mass grave at Melrose Cemetery, a large plot marked by a monument listing the names of all 58 victims. The unidentified are noted simply as unknown. The funeral is held on March 23rd, 3 days after the disaster. The entire city of Brockton shuts down, stores close, factories close, flags fly at half-mast. Public buildings are draped in black. Thousands attend the funeral, families, co-workers, city officials, strangers, who feel compelled to bear witness. 40 caskets, white, child-sized in some cases, are arranged beneath an elaborate floral arch. A minister speaks, a choir sings. The caskets are lowered into the ground together, and the earth is filled in, sealing the dead in a shared grave that will stand for over a century. The investigation begins immediately. State inspectors, engineers, boiler experts all descend on the ruins searching for the cause. The boiler, retrieved from the wreckage of the house on Kalmar Street, is examined. The metal is split along a riveted seam, the kind of failure that occurs when pressure exceeds the strength of the material. But why? The boiler was new, installed within the past few years. It had been inspected, certified as safe. The engineers find the answer in the operation. The boiler was oversized for the building, generating more steam than the factory needed, running at higher pressures than were safe. It had been worked hard for weeks, running continuously, pushed to meet production demands. The metal, subjected to repeated cycles of heating and cooling, had developed microscopic cracks along the seams. Those cracks, invisible to the naked eye, weakened the structure. When the pressure spiked on the morning of March 20th, perhaps due to a stuck valve, a blockage in the steam line, or simply the cumulative stress of overuse, the weakened seam gave way. The explosion was not an act of God. It was the result of negligence, of pushing equipment beyond its limits, of prioritizing production over safety. The findings lead to immediate change. Massachusetts, reeling from the disaster, establishes the Board of Boiler Rules, the first effective boiler design and inspection legislation in the United States. The law requires regular inspections of all boilers, certification of operators, adherence to strict pressure limits, and the use of safety valves designed to release steam before pressure reaches dangerous levels. Other states follow. The American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME, founded in 1880, begins developing the Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code, a comprehensive set of standards that will become the international benchmark for boiler safety. The code is published in 1914, nearly a decade after the Grover disaster, but its origins lie in the lessons learned from Brockton and other tragedies like it. The 58 who died in the Grover factory become, in death, the impetus for reforms that will save thousands of lives in the decades to come. But the reforms come too late for the families of the dead. Wallace Abercrombie, a worker at the factory, is among those who disappear in the explosion. His body is never found, consumed entirely by the fire, reduced to ash, blown away by the wind. His wife, Jenny, is 22 years old and 7 months pregnant with twins. On the day of the disaster, she runs to the factory, searching for him. She moves through the crowds, looking at the survivors, at the injured, at the rows of bodies laid out in the street. He is not there. She searches for days, visiting hospitals, morgues, checking survivor lists posted in the newspapers. She never finds him. She gives birth to the twins, a boy and a girl, without knowing if her husband is alive or dead. She raises them alone, carrying the weight of his absence for the rest of her life. Her granddaughter, interviewed a century later, speaks of Jenny's grief, of the way she searched, of the hollowness of never knowing, never having a body to bury, never having closure. Wallace Abercrombie is listed among the dead, but he has no grave, no marker, only the monument at Melrose Cemetery that includes his name among the 58. The Brockton Relief Fund is established to aid the victims and their families. Donations pour in from across the country, individuals, businesses, civic organizations, all contributing. Andrew Carnegie, the industrialist, donates $10,000. The Brockton Choral Society holds a concert with all proceeds benefiting the fund. By the end of the fundraising campaign, the fund has collected over $104,000, an enormous sum in 1905 equivalent to several million today. The money is distributed to the families of the dead and the injured, providing financial support for widows, orphans, and those too injured to return to work. It is a gesture of collective compassion, of a community coming together in the face of tragedy. But money cannot replace the dead. It cannot restore the limbs lost to the fire, the lungs scarred by smoke, the minds broken by trauma. It can only ease the practical burdens, the question of how to survive when the breadwinner is gone, when the body is too broken to work, when the future has been irrevocably altered. The disaster leaves scars that go beyond the physical. Brockton is a city in mourning. The Campello neighborhood where the factory stood is devastated. Nearly every family knows someone who died, who was injured, who survived but is changed. The children who lost parents, the parents who lost children, the widows, the orphans, all carry the weight of March 20, 1905 for the rest of their lives. They speak of it in hushed tones or not at all, the memory too painful to revisit. Some move away, unable to live in a place so saturated with grief. Others stay, rebuild, try to move forward. But the shadow of the Grover disaster lingers, a ghost that haunts the neighborhood, the city, the collective memory of Brockton. The site of the factory is cleared. The ruins are demolished, the debris hauled away, the ground leveled. For years, the lot remains empty, a scar on the landscape. Eventually, new buildings are constructed, new businesses move in, and the physical evidence of the disaster disappears. But the memory does not. In 1955, on the 50th anniversary of the explosion, survivors gather at Melrose Cemetery to remember. They are older now, graying, some walking with canes, some in wheelchairs. They stand before the monument, read the names aloud, and place flowers on the grave. They speak of the friends they lost, the co-workers who did not make it out, the screams they still hear in their nightmares. The ceremony is somber, quiet, necessary. It is a way of ensuring that the dead are not forgotten, that the disaster is not erased, that the lessons are not lost. The monument at Melrose Cemetery stands today, a tall granite marker listing the names of the 58 who died. It is weathered now, the inscriptions faded but still legible, a testament to the passage of time and the endurance of memory. Visitors come, occasionally, descendants, historians, those drawn by curiosity or a sense of duty. They stand before the monument, read the names, and try to imagine what it was like on March 20th, 1905, to be inside the factory when the boiler exploded, to feel the building collapse, to hear the screams, to smell the smoke. But imagination is insufficient. The disaster is too vast, too immediate, too saturated with pain to be fully comprehended by those who did not live it. The monument is a marker, a reminder, a way of saying that here in this place 58 people died, and their deaths mattered. The Grover disaster is studied in engineering schools, in safety courses, in histories of industrial America. It is cited as an example of what happens when profit is prioritized over safety, when equipment is pushed beyond its limits, when warning signs are ignored. The boiler that exploded was overworked, undersized for its space, operated without adequate safety measures. The factory that collapsed was wooden, highly flammable, poorly ventilated. The workers who died were given no training in emergency procedures, no escape routes, no protection from the dangers inherent in their work. The disaster was preventable. Every expert who examines it comes to the same conclusion. It did not have to happen, but it did because the systems designed to protect workers, inspections, regulations, enforcement, were inadequate or non-existent. The Grover disaster forced those systems to change, to evolve, to become more rigorous and more effective. But the change came at the cost of 58 lives, a price that cannot be justified, only mourned. Decades pass. The survivors die, taking their memories with them. The children who lost parents grow old, die, and their children inherit the story, a family tragedy passed down through generations. The city of Brockton changes, grows, industrializes further, then deindustrializes. The shoe factories closing one by one, replaced by new industries, new economies. The Campello neighborhood changes too. The tenements replaced by newer buildings, the streets widened, the landmarks erased. But the memory of the Grover disaster persists, kept alive by the Brockton Historical Society, which maintains exhibits, archives, photographs, collects testimonies. In 2015, on the 110th anniversary, the Society opens a new exhibit commemorating the disaster. Photographs of the factory before and after the explosion, items recovered from the ruins, documents detailing the investigation, All are displayed, allowing visitors to engage with the history, to understand the scale of the tragedy, to honor the dead. The explosion lasted a fraction of a second. The collapse took 10 seconds. The fire burned for 3 hours. But the grief has lasted more than a century. A slow burn that does not diminish, that passes from generation to generation, that lives in the stories told, the names carved in stone, the knowledge that on a clear March morning in 1905, 58 people went to work and never came home. The Grover Shoe Factory is gone, the boiler is gone, the people are gone, but the disaster remains written in the laws that govern boiler safety, in the regulations that protect workers, in the monument that stands in Melrose Cemetery, a marker of loss, a testament to the fragility of life, a reminder that safety is not an accident. It is a choice, a commitment, a responsibility that must be upheld every day in every workplace to ensure that what happened on March 20th, 1905 never happens again.